While it has been said that music soothes the savage beast, it really soothes everyone. Science has proven that music is capable of creating predictable cardiovascular changes in people from all walks of life without invoking thought or even liking the music that they hear. Furthermore, it is proven that music can act as an outside reference source to control the heart rate. This process is called entrainment. However, in previous scientific studies, the entrainment was short-lived because the musical phrase that triggered entrainment from an aria by Vivaldi was only 10 seconds in length. In the previous studies, two factors were consistent. Only music was used as a controlling source, and only previously written common domain music was used. Because the music had limitations, the results of the tests were limited. The purpose of this project is to take the data collected from previous studies and apply it to the creation of an original multimedia art piece to see if entrainment can be lengthened. Artistic qualities such as timbre, tempo, dynamics, and any combination of the three will be major factors in the composition of the music. Additionally, the variance of the graphic intensity in the images displayed, the speed with which the images change, the number of images, multiple screens, and any combination of these traits will also need to be considered. The other key factor that will be different from previous studies is that this project is art, that is science. Previous studies were scientific experiments using music as a stimulus. The perspective is completely different. This is a piece of art that is being created to have a physiological impact on a patron. The monitoring must not be so evasive that it destroys the artistic experience. There will be no instructions or scientific control. The patron will be asked to walk into the display, sit, and enjoy. The results will be the results. The outcome will be measured by the answer to the question, did the heart rate entrain a longer period of time or not? Yes or no? A review of the literature available on the subject of music in medicine yields a large volume of work. However, it goes into every specific direction imaginable. Studies have been done on the use of religious chant and heart rate, how music can affect the cognitive recovery of stroke patients, and the many uses of music in a therapeutic setting. The amount of specific research that has been conducted is great. However, all has been scientific, and it has all used previously composed music rather than music composed for a purpose. The one study that is particularly relevant to this project is dynamic interactions between musical, cardiovascular, and cerebral rhythms in humans by the team of Luciano Bernardi et al. This study pinpoints the entrainment of heart rate to music. Additionally, it reveals the parameter of 6 cycles per minute as the rate at which the heart rate does entrain, and that certain dynamic effects in the music help to trigger entrainment. This project is one whose outcome is not based upon learning or education, but instead measures a patron's reaction to a piece of art. Therefore, cognitive theory in the area of learning is not applicable. However, how people perceive and react is. For that reason, the principles of Gestalt will be applied. Figure to ground explains that elements are either perceived as a figure, an element of focus, or ground, part of the background. It lets us know what we should focus on and what we can ignore. In the picture, do you see 2 faces or a vase? Whichever you see has been declared the figure. Whichever you ignore is the ground. Area simply states that when 2 objects overlap, the smaller object is seen as figure and the larger as ground. Similarity is the concept by which people perceive items of like shape, size, color, texture, or value as similar. Things that are similar are perceived to be more related than those that are dissimilar. In the picture, while all the objects are the same color and about the same size, the geographic shapes are what you notice, and similar geographic shapes are what let you see the circles in the middle of the squares. Uniform connectedness, or the law of unity, explains that items that have a visual connectedness are perceived as being more related than elements with no connection. In the picture on the left, you see 2 squares and 2 circles. Your eye groups the squares together and then the circles in similar fashion. However, on the right, a line has been drawn to connect each square to one circle. You now perceive new groups, each containing a square and a circle. Continuation or continuity shows that elements arranged on a line or curve are perceived to be more related than elements that are not. In this picture, you see two lines of dots. While the lines are actually constructed by segments of dots of different colors, you perceive them as lines first, the whole, before noticing the segments. There are many more principles of Gestalt that will be applied to this project, the details of which are contained in the full proposal. This project was greatly inspired by the class visit from Dr. Eleni Lelios. The introspective nature and potential for control elements in her art helped to formulate an idea out of a basic curiosity. A discussion on the subject of music and heart rate ensued with a colleague who is the coordinator of fitness at Old Dominion University. Those discussions were initially based upon the topic of using music to elevate the heart rate. The intended approach was to use music to elevate the heart rate to simulate cardiovascular exercise. This would be useful in helping patients who cannot physically exercise maintain cardiovascular health. Then the conversation pendulum swung in the opposite direction. Could music be used to slow the heart rate and maintain it at the slower rate to aid in the healing process? From that point, research into the topic was conducted. It became apparent that a considerable amount of studies had been conducted in the area. It is from this research that the project has evolved and taken shape. Since this project is a piece of multimedia display art, step one is to find a digital media artist with whom to collaborate. This in itself is a considerable task. There are two limiting factors in finding a collaborator. The first is your local marketplace, and the second is your personal network of contacts. Here is the remainder of the project sequence. The list of tools and resources needed for this project has not yet been decided. And as this is a piece of art and not scientific research, there'll be no pilot study. It would bias the results. The final evaluation for the project will be based on the data collected. And here is the timeline for the project. This concludes my presentation.